Damn, it's been a hot minute since I've done one of these, especially knowing I'd wrapped up the series well over a year ago with, I think, Wicker Beasts? But hey, a bet is a bet, and I lost said bet, so I'm here for somewhat of a high school reunion with the Furry Fandom Species series. Or better yet, just to go over the species that I haven't gone over because I'm finally not burnt out from this. But heyo guys, my name is BetaEtaDelota, and today we'll be talking about the species of the Furry Fandom, the series where we discuss everything you need to know about the different yet popular furry-adjacent species created by members of the community. I've still got it. Now, like I said before, the only reason I'm doing this is in part due to a lost bet, but also due to some sort of obligation knowing the amount of love and support I've showered PROTOGENS in on this channel. I won't lie, PROTOGENS are very, very popular, if not the most popular furry fandom species to be created, as of currently. And as is, the memes are pretty good as well. Unfortunately, most add to the plague that is furry IRL. But with PROTOGENS being in the spotlight, members of a somewhat adjacent furry species community have asked me for some form of representation or chance to shine as well. They're similar to PROTOGENS, yes, but have an entirely different style, honing in on more of the sci-fi techie appeal rather than the species being fluffy and cutesy. So for today's installment of Furry Fandom Species, we'll be talking about Synths. And no, not the Fallout 4 things with slightly more emotion than Siri. The synth species is one of those things you've probably seen around in the furry fandom, but don't really know much about. You might look at one and think, this thing isn't a furry at all. Which first off, should judge. Second, although the species may look intimidating, or rather lacking in the how furry it might be department, believe me when I say that these things are really cool and have a bit more backstory than you'd think, which we'll go over about half of it in this video. And also, there's a lot more customizability, but we'll get onto that later. But for now, let's talk about synths, how they came to be, the community surrounding them, the many benefits of having one, and how you can eventually make one of your very own. Oh boy, this is going to be a lot. But well worth it. I wonder if I could put one of these things in a life jacket. Anyways, synths are a fictional, synthetic species set in an immense science fiction universe created by the user known as vader-san. Wow, vader-san. That's a fucking fantastic name. Synths are 100% synthetic androids sporting individual minds with robotic bodies, each with their own personality, quirks, strengths, and weaknesses. So none of that hive mind nonsense where you can't be your own sort of person, or synth in this case. Unless hypnosis is your thing. Not judging, again, this is coming from the guy with a life jacket fetish. But like, hive minds are totally for people who like hypno. Typically, synths are humanoid, sharing a vaguely reptilian aesthetic. They're highly modular, being able to exchange parts of themselves for different ones, similar to the plug-and-play feature you PROTOGEN users are a big fan of. Most of their body, including their shape, color, height, and number of limbs, is completely customizable. With this in mind, I know we're getting into the big question about the species rather early, but synths are an open and free-to-use species that can be incorporated into any science fiction universe without restrictions. I know, a bit of a shocker there knowing the amount of regulated and/or closed species in the furry fandom. Now let me say as well, this isn't meant to bash any of the owners or users of other furry fandom species. I understand why some rules and regulations are in place for keeping your fursonas from turning into chimera-like monstrosities. But maybe just take a look at how the synth community has turned out and maybe incorporate just a little bit of it into your own communities. That's all. Anyways, yes, synths are a completely open species and you're welcome to customize one however you'd like and give it whatever backstory you see fit. But before we get into what's customizable, let's go over a bit of the basic anatomy of synths and what cool things they have to offer. Alright, so synths can vary widely in appearance since they come in many sizes, shapes, and colors, yet they all have common features that are shared amongst most, but not all synths. Synths typically have a long reptile-like head featuring a mechanical mouth, a 3D screen visor displaying the synth's eyes, nostrils for air intake, antenna-like horns, and status LEDs. Synths tend to be bipedal, but can have snake-like lower bodies, tor-like configurations, and many other shapes as well. Their number of limbs can vary, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a reptile-like tail being the standard. Hands that are not any form of specialized tools can vary in their number of fingers, with 2 fingers and 1 thumb being the standard configuration. One of the main features of any synth is their modularity. Every synth is able to customize their body in various ways. Feet, hands, arms, legs, tails, visors, head shapes, skin style, and many other internal parts can be exchanged. Synths parts are typically referred to as modules in this case. Modules can be customized pretty much as creatively as you want, but one of probably the cooler aspects of synths are their ability to use nanites. Ah, nanites. An engineer's wet dream. Or rather, an engineer's fantasy to one day hopefully come true and become an engineer's wet dream. I think. I don't really know, but nanites are fucking cool, okay? Either way, synths are, by default, equipped with a small internal swarm of nanites. Nanites are nanomachines constructed by the synth, and are responsible for handling much of the synth's metabolism, as well as healing wounds, repairing internal organs, and even changing the body's size and stature. In addition to that, every synth is equipped with a certain blueprint, a piece of software that is exchangeable and allows the synth's body to change shape over time. Blueprints contain information as to what size and shape a synth wants to be, as well as detailed plans for the build and makeup of internal parts. Blueprints can be exchanged for different ones depending on the synth's personal tastes and requirements. So for this, blueprints are supposed to be a more complicated way of saying reference sheet. The existence of a blueprint in nanites within a synth's body therefore allows them to change their body shape, size and weight over time, as well as heal inflicted damage, very much like wounds healing in organics. Blueprints give nanites a plan on how a synth's body is supposed to be, and the nanites will strive towards that goal. Oh god, I love nanites. Although I don't think nanites would really like people, or for that matter, any sort of organic matter. Still, I think they're cool as shit. As for the rest of the info on the anatomy, a lot of it is really specific, and more so relates to the lore of the species, so for the sake of summarizing everything, I'll leave you guys to read up on that on your own. This also goes for the lore of the synth species and the universe. Like, there's a lot of it, and I could do a whole video covering it by itself, so again, if you're curious about it or want to fine-tune your own synth to fit in with the lore of their universe, the links to the website will be in the description below. Speaking of your own synth, let's talk about how to make one. Now, like we said before, synths are completely open source, and so are an open species. You're not required to follow any set canon for the species, but a pre-built, ready-to-go canon is available for anyone who wishes to contribute to an active universe. There are no limits to the number of synth characters that can be created, and no approval is required, so you can go wild with your designs and be as creative as you like. The lore of the universe and species acts as a set of optional guidelines, but you're free to interpret them in any way you choose, or just make your own rules entirely. What really matters is that you have fun with the species. There are also a ton of synth bases that are free to use, just keep in mind that they're free to use and don't be that guy that tries to sell them. I'm not going to make my own synth because I don't want to get lost in the sauce of characters, but if anyone wants to make a synth version of Levi or Maverick, you're more than welcome to do so. The only requirement is just got to add in the life jacket. Let me know if you want me to continue this Furry Fandom species series, or if you have any recommendations for species, and I don't mean something that you created, like an offhand, like, hybrid mix. I mean something that, like, you've seen in the furry fandom as a species, you've seen other people use, and you want more info on it. Because I'm more than happy to do it. As an example, I think if I'm going to do a furry fandom species video next, it's gonna be on Avali's. I don't really know what they are, but I know my friend Neo is, an Avali, and he's pretty cool looking, so hey, we're gonna go over that. Also, apologies for not having a guest on this video. I don't really know many synth species, characters, fursonas, friends, whatever, but I think I drove the point home that synths are pretty cool, and even though this was kind of short, I enjoyed it nonetheless. Either way, thank you all for watching, have a good day as always, and stay life jacket, guys. Take care.